Let me start with something most people never say out loud. People don't disappear because they hate everyone. They disappear because staying became heavier than leaving. At first, it doesn't look dramatic. Replies take longer. Plans get canceled more often. Silence slowly replaces explanations. Nothing explodes. Nothing officially ends. And then, one day, they're just gone. From the outside, it feels cold. Confusing. Even cruel. People wonder what they did wrong. They replay conversations. They search for closure that never comes. But from the inside, it feels very different. From the inside, disappearing feels like survival. It feels like choosing oxygen over drowning. Like stepping out of a room that slowly became too loud, too heavy, too crowded to breathe in. People who cut everyone off are often misunderstood. They're seen as distant, aloof, emotionally closed. But most of the time, they are none of those things. They didn't leave because they stopped caring. They left because caring started to cost them too much. What most people don't see is how long they stayed before they left. They didn't disappear overnight. They endured quietly, politely, patiently. They stayed through moments of being misunderstood. They stayed when their feelings were minimized. They stayed when they were expected to be okay, even when they weren't. They became the strong one, the listener, the fixer, the emotional container for everyone else. They learned how to hold space, even when no one held space for them. And because they didn't complain, because they didn't make scenes, because they kept showing up, no one noticed how tired they were becoming. This kind of exhaustion doesn't announce itself. It accumulates, day by day, conversation by conversation, expectation by expectation, until one day, the weight they've been carrying quietly becomes impossible to ignore. Psychologically, many people who cut everyone off share one deep fear. The fear of being a burden. For a lot of them, this fear was learned early. Their needs were ignored, dismissed, or treated as inconvenient. So they adapted. Instead of asking for support, they became low maintenance. They stopped expressing discomfort. They learned to say, "I'm fine," even when they weren't. They became easy to be around. They didn't ask for much. They didn't take up space. And at first, this adaptation works. People praise them for being strong, for being mature, for being independent. But there's a hidden cost. When you don't express your limits, people assume you don't have any. So expectations grow. Demands increase. Emotional labor piles up. And because they never learned how to say, "This is too much," the breaking point arrives silently. Not as anger, not as confrontation, but as withdrawal. Cutting everyone off doesn't begin as rejection. It begins as exhaustion. There comes a point where giving stops feeling generous and starts feeling draining. This is what emotional saturation looks like. It's giving without being seen, listening without being asked how you're doing, showing up without anyone noticing the effort it takes. Imagine pouring water into a cup with cracks in the bottom. No matter how much you pour, it never fills. Eventually, you don't stop because you don't care. You stop because there's nothing left to give. People who reach this point often replay moments that seem small to others, but felt enormous to them. Being talked over, being forgotten, being contacted only when someone needs something, being praised for being strong instead of being supported. Strength, when it never gets to rest, becomes a burden. And when that burden is carried alone for too long, it turns into isolation. This is the breaking point most people never see. Not an argument, not a confrontation, but a quiet internal realization. I can't keep doing this anymore. For many people who cut everyone off, closeness doesn't feel neutral. It feels risky. They don't experience relationships as something casual or flexible. It's usually all in or emotionally unsafe. That pattern often comes from past experiences where vulnerability was punished instead of protected. Where opening up led to dismissal. Where relying on someone ended in disappointment or abandonment. So the nervous system learns a simple rule. Distance equals safety. Staying slightly removed hurts less than hoping and being let down. Silence feels more predictable than conversation. Leaving feels safer than waiting. This is why they stop explaining. Not because they don't care enough to communicate, but because they've already tried. They've said how they felt. They've hinted. They've clarified. They've waited for change. And when nothing shifts, explanation starts to feel pointless. At that stage, distance isn't punishment. It's self-preservation. When they finally pull away, something unexpected happens. At first, it feels like relief. There's less tension, less emotional labor, fewer expectations to manage. The nervous system finally slows down. Breathing feels easier. The constant anticipation of being needed or misunderstood begins to fade. For a moment, silence feels like peace. But then something else arrives. Loneliness. Because silence doesn't just remove noise. It removes connection. And this creates an internal conflict. On one side, there's safety. On the other, there's longing. They still care. They still remember birthdays. They still wonder how people are doing. But they don't know how to return without losing themselves again. This is the illusion of peace. Silence can protect, but it cannot replace connection. It can reduce pain, but it cannot fulfill the need to belong. And that's where the emotional tension deepens. Not between people, but inside the person who left. For many people who cut everyone off, the exhaustion goes deeper than emotions. It reaches their identity. From an early age, they were placed into roles. The responsible one, the mature one, the emotionally intelligent one, the one who holds everything together. Over time, they stopped being seen as a person and started being treated as a function. They weren't asked how they felt. They were expected to handle things, to understand, to adapt. Slowly, quietly, they learned that their value came from being useful. And when your worth is tied to usefulness, rest starts to feel like failure. Needing support feels like weakness. Being human feels like inconvenience. That's when silence becomes tempting. Not as punishment, not as revenge, but as relief. Stepping away becomes the only way to ask a question they've never had space to ask before. Who am I when I'm not needed? In that quiet, some people finally feel themselves again. Not as a role, not as an obligation, but as a person. Yet this search often collides with another powerful force, perfectionism. Many believe that if they can't show up fully, consistently, and flawlessly, they shouldn't show up at all. So instead of arriving tired, uncertain, or incomplete, they disappear. Not because they don't care, but because they believe presence must be earned by being enough. And that belief slowly erases the self. At first, withdrawal feels regulating. From a neurological perspective, this makes sense. After prolonged emotional overload, the nervous system learns a simple association. Connection equals overwhelm. So distance becomes calming. Silence becomes soothing. Isolation becomes control. Withdrawal, in this phase, is regulation. But regulation without healing doesn't stay neutral. Over time, protection hardens into a prison. The walls that once kept pain out begin to keep connection out as well. People like this don't stop interacting. They show up. They participate. They function. But they don't open. They listen, but they don't reveal. They connect, but they don't attach. They are present, but not safe inside themselves. Relationships start to look fine on the surface, while feeling hollow underneath. This is the danger point. When solitude stops restoring. and starts isolating. When independence turns into emotional exile. Because the nervous system may feel calmer, but the heart begins to shrink. Silence that once protected now prevents healing. And unless something changes, this state doesn't lead to peace. It leads to disconnection that slowly becomes a way of life. Eventually, something subtle begins to shift. Life feels calmer, more controlled, more predictable. But joy feels flat. Not painful, just muted. Not broken, just distant. Days pass smoothly, yet something essential feels missing. Laughter doesn't linger. Moments don't fully land. And a quiet question starts forming inside. Is this peace? Or am I just numb? This question is unsettling because it challenges the identity built around self-protection. If cutting everyone off was supposed to bring relief, why does life feel manageable but empty? Psychologically, this is a crucial moment. Because humans are not designed to heal forever in isolation. Solitude can restore, but it cannot replace connection. We regulate in safety, but we heal in relationship. At this stage, many realize something important. They didn't leave because they wanted to be alone. They left because they didn't know how to stay without losing themselves. This realization doesn't demand immediate change. It simply opens a door toward a different way of relating. One that doesn't require disappearance. Healing doesn't mean going back to how things were. It doesn't mean reopening every door. And it doesn't mean letting everyone back in. But it also doesn't mean staying hidden forever. The path forward lives in the middle. Not isolation. Not overexposure. Discernment. Learning that connection is not about availability, it's about selectivity. That boundaries don't have to arrive late, loud, or through disappearance. They can exist early, quietly, and consistently. Healing means learning how to say no without vanishing, how to express needs without apologizing for having them, how to stay without shrinking yourself to fit. For people who once cut everyone off, this often begins small. One safe person, one honest moment, one choice to remain present instead of withdrawing. Not because they fear being alone, but because they're ready to be seen. So let's be clear about who these people are. They are not cold. They are tired. They are not heartless. They are protecting what was never protected before. They didn't disappear because they didn't care. They disappeared because caring cost them too much for too long. And when they finally learn how to stay, without sacrificing themselves, they don't vanish anymore. They don't overgive anymore. They stay. Not everywhere. Not for everyone. But where it matters. And that isn't weakness. That is emotional maturity.